You have probably seen these pop up in your yard as weeds, or maybe came across them walking around. But these are called plantains, and they are actually very beneficial for a variety of reasons. These plants are considered herbs and have been used for a very long time for medicinal purposes. We are going to harvest some of these leaves so that we can make a salve that you can put on mosquito bites and insect bites to help relieve the pain and itching. So let's harvest a few of these and I'll show you the process. So I'm looking specifically for leaves. So we're just gonna pick some of the nice green leaves. I'm gonna avoid any ones that look damaged or covered in bug bites, but we're gonna pick a few different type of plantain leaves and put them in our container here. There are a variety of types of plantains. So this one here is called a ribwort plantain. Their leaves are narrow and long. We're gonna pick as much of a variety as we can to put into our salve. This plantain is called a black seed plantain. So the first step will be to wash all the leaves really well. Get off anything you can so that they're clean. I've been rinsing them, filling and rinsing about 3 or 4 times until I see the water's clear. The next step is going to be to dry the leaves. This prevents the oil that we're going to use for our salve to go rancid. And if you use wet leaves, you have the higher chance of your oil going rancid. So dry your leaves out. And some people have dehydrators, some people dry them in the oven. I've heard of people doing it in the microwave even, but I'm gonna let mine sit out for a few days, stirring them here and there until they're dry. Alright, so I left these out in the sun for 2 days. I picked them yesterday morning, washed them and put them out in the sun, and then brought them inside overnight, put them out again this morning, and now it's evening, the sun is going down, and these are completely dried through. So ready for the next step. For this next step, you're going to need your dried herbs, a mason jar, some type of oil. I'm using coconut oil because it's good for the skin anyway, and I'm melting it down, a crock pot, and some water. The first step is to place all of the dried plantain leaves into the mason jar. Pour your oil over the herbs. And you want enough oil to cover to the top of the herbs. Fill your crock pot with water and place it on the warm or low setting. You don't want the temperature of the water to get above 100 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit because you don't want your leaves to actually cook or start frying in the oil. We're just gonna slowly warm it to infuse it. So we're gonna let this sit for, you can let it sit for 8 hours at the minimum. You can do 24 hours for the longer. We're gonna give it about 24 hours. And you'll be leaving the lid off because you can't put the lid on with the mason jar. So this oil has officially been sitting for 24 hours. It is now done. I've let it cool down, and you can see it's pretty much dark green in there. And now we're ready for the next step. I am going to drain this oil into a bowl with some cheesecloth so that I can drain out and separate the oils from basically the grit, and the oil is what we're going to be using. So I've separated all of the leaves from the oil, and this is what the oil looks like. It's almost a green color. And it actually smells very savory at this point. So we're gonna add 20 drops of essential oils, specifically a tea tree oil, and you can also use lavender is another good option, but we're gonna use tea tree oil, 20 drops. So go ahead and choose your containers for your salve. Some people use the flat metal round containers. I'm gonna be using these small mason jars. For this step, I am turning the crock pot back on to high so that the water inside gets hot. And then I've placed a separate bowl inside, and I'm gonna melt some beeswax into here. And eventually we'll pour the oil in here with the beeswax. And I'm using 3 tablespoons of beeswax. Once it is a liquid consistency, carefully pour it into your containers and then allow it to cool down. This is what it'll look like. You'll have a nice salve you can put on your bug bites. You can see we've already used it a couple of times. And there you have it, a plantain salve to help with your insect bites and bug bites to relieve the pain and itching.